Hey, what's up, meat waters? So today we're going to talk about dairy. People often ask, why is pasteurized dairy bad for us? Or why should we avoid it? It tends to be one of those grayer areas in a sense, but there are a few things that we ought to keep in mind about dairy. Our Neolithic ancestors, our paleo ancestors, never had access to milk or dairy or cheese. It's only been really since the birth of civilization that the domestication of cows, goats, sheep has been able to provide us with what we call dairy. So, with that being said, let's take a look at three separate issues or reasons for why we ought to avoid dairy in terms of nutrition. And so the first thing is lactose. Lactose is a sugar, it's a carbohydrate that's present in milk, yogurt. Most people tend to lose their ability to properly digest lactose after around the age of 4, and again it varies and depends by person. But troubled digestion means your gut is not absorbing all the nutrients that you need, and lactose, especially if you're intolerant, can cause a ton of issues, including bloating, explosive diarrhea, etc. So we want to avoid this. Again, lactose is a carbohydrate. The second reason is the main protein that you find in dairy is casein. Casein presents a bit of a problem because it shares a similar protein structure with gluten, which, as we all know, gluten, the primary protein in wheat, which can shred your small intestine and generate a nasty autoimmune response. And casein shares some similar structures, again, with gluten. There are even some studies done in rats showing that casein consumption actually encourages carcinogenic growth. So more food for thought. The third reason, or the third issue that we want to talk about in terms of dairy is it also it causes a high insulin response. It's very insulinogenic, and this response is caused primarily by the lactose. So if for example, if you take a look at, say, the nutrition facts on yogurt, what I have here is 1 cup of yogurt contains 9 grams of fat, 13 grams of carbohydrates, 12 of which are sugar, and 9 grams of protein. It's again that lactose and that sugar which causes a high insulin response, and we want to avoid this because we want our insulin levels to be maintained for us to keep our energy throughout the day. So another reason to avoid. So those are 3 reasons. What about pasteurization? And what is that? Pasteurization in general is a relatively simple process. Milk from a cow or goat or whatever is heated to near boiling point and then cooled. And the benefit of this is that it eliminates deadly bacteria and it helps, keep shelf life. The problem is that pasteurization also kills a bunch of beneficial bacteria and enzymes which allow for the complete breakdown of lactose and casein, and which also allow for full micronutrient absorption. Plus the other issue about pasteurized dairy in the supermarket is most of it, nearly 100% of it, probably 100% of it, comes from cows that are corn-fed anyways. It's not coming from cows that are eating their natural diet, which is grass. So when you're thinking about drinking, milk from the supermarket, it's really more like drinking a big tall glass of corn. So do yourself a favor, keep your gut lining intact, avoid pasteurized dairy, and if you really are considering trying dairy, you're trying to reintroduce dairy into your paleo diet, go raw first. That's definitely going to have the most benefits for you. And just as a final note, in case you were wondering, no, eggs are not considered dairy, even if they are placed in the dairy section next to milk in the supermarket. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.